one duo for the Global Championship.
This is a really interesting storyline. Kirby and Wixie, of course, coming from different regions, a little bit of a language barrier potentially there, so they're going to have to sort of use the in-game tools to communicate, landing it to the north side of the map, just to the west of Sanguine Sweet. Really interesting drop spot. I think they might have a few issues with Storm Surge, with teams actually using that massive mountain that's just outside of that drop to take advantage of them, but anything can happen. This is why I wanted to talk about this duo, because literally anything can happen. We've never seen them play together before, so literally, who knows what's going to happen?
That's a little bit of an X factor, right? You never know what could happen, and Fortnite loves to do this thing where when you don't know what could happen, that's when the craziest things happen. A last duo here, FKS and Adapter. What do you want to talk about this duo, Vid?
Listen, I mean, I love where they are dropping. Kenjutsu crossing, of course, we saw Queasy and Eveno do very, very well from this drop spot yesterday, right? Kind of taking the reins over from them. And honestly, I was looking towards it because I was like, hey, I think they can do very good from this drop spot. But of course, it's the lower bracket, it's Fortnite, it's the Global Championship. We love to always mix up a little bit of drama in there. And I was checking out socials a little bit earlier on this morning, and it looks like Suns and Anon might be switching over to contest this duo. So my eyes are going to be towards that fight as we jump in to these first couple of games.
That is crazy. And if I remember correctly, these guys were at Invitational, all right? So they already have some LAN experience. Do you feel like that could play a factor coming in today?
Yeah, I mean, we have to talk about it, right? Any of the duos that have experience, especially the ones that have been, you know, together when it comes to an international event or just playing in person alone. And then, of course, you know, some of these duos, one half of them kind of have that experience as well. So I'll be excited to see, you know, if they can kind of take the reins and make sure that they stay cool, calm, and collected under the pressure.
Yeah, and I like that you mentioned they're now contested, because that just shows what the lower bracket can do. Anything can happen. These guys would have been preparing to be uncontested. Now they are contested by Suns and Anon. I mean, that's going to throw a huge spanner in the works, and that is crazy, because they would have been preparing, yes, we're going to rotate here to get our surge, go and landing us, we'll be chilling, we'll be enjoying ourselves. Next thing you know, 2 Australians, they're flying in, and things are all going out the window. All the plans are like, hang on a sec, what's happening here? So this is why we talk about adaptability so much, not only in the whole game, the whole meta, the whole season, per day in this format. That's when you need to be adaptable as well.
And I wanted to kind of bring it back to full circle. Something we talked about originally was it's only 5 games. We're used to kind of seeing either 6 games one day or a total of 12, right, spread across. Only 5 games, though it's one less. It sounds like, it's just one less game. It's actually that much harder.
Yeah, I mean, it's extremely tough. And one thing that I want to talk about, right, when it comes to the mentality that the players must be thinking about, to qualify to the Global Championship, right, for these upper bracket teams, you pretty much had to place bare minimum top 10, right? And that's EU. That was a very, very large region. But for a lot of the smaller regions, it was a lot tighter for that, right? So they're used to kind of like winning or placing very, very high. Yesterday, they had to get bottom 25, right? So surely that's kind of affecting the mental a little bit. But then those last chance major teams, they're used to clutching up. I mean, they made it all the way to the last event of the year, right? The last one to actually make it to the Global Championships, they clutched up. Today is a clutch situation.
Yeah, and one team that's synonymous to clutch, Steno and Lucy. I was speaking to a few people earlier, a few people were around me. I was like, who do you think is going to win today? I think they were Danish. They said Steno and Lucy. And they're Danish as well, of course. This is a fantastic, I'm excited to see how this duo, yeah, give it a round of applause.
Wow.
Cheer, why not? Yeah, give it. Because, I mean, these guys are fantastic. I really love watching them play. They just seem to know how each other plays so well. They vibe off each other so well as well. And, of course, they have LAN experience as well. They did so great at Gamers 8. I think it was last year they did so great. So I'm excited to see if they can continue and bring that LAN experience, that chemistry that they have in a LAN environment to this event, because, I mean, they have the fans for it.
Yeah, for sure. So let's say, you know we have these 5 games. Do we just send everything, right? At this point, we've got to make top 25. You could argue maybe just try and do something and kind of keep any kind of strategy secret and just hope that you can kind of save that for tomorrow. With only 5 games, though, is that enough wiggle room, man? I feel like it's just not. You just got to go full send now.
Nah, I mean, if you're holding back now, I think you're trolling a little bit, honestly, right?
Right?
I mean, full send for sure. And that's the thing, though, about Fortnite. And I love the fact that you're talking about strategy, because I feel like we have 2 major different play styles, right? People who like to play a little bit more passive, and then we have those aggressive duos, ones that are looking for those one pop-off games with 10+ eliminations. I'll be excited to see which duos kind of pull out each one of those strategies.
Yeah, and of course, I think you have to just use the strategies that you practice for the first couple of games. If things go wrong and you have to pull out the grand final strategy, then do it. Because if you don't do it now, you might not even make it to the grand final. So there's no point in hiding them away. We saw some great strats yesterday from Zagu and Pepper with using the shield mushrooms to get some extra surge. Some great ideas ideas from these teams that we haven't seen on other regions, and that's what this is all about. Who's going to pull what out of the hat?
I love that too. I mean, social media yesterday and even today was just like, what is their strategy? Yes, that's what we want to see. We want to see what they're thinking, what they're cooking, and then come out tomorrow. And that could be like the difference maker, them winning and becoming global champions. That would just be wild. Another duel, you know we cannot not talk about them. It's King, it's FaZe. They did not make the top 25, but yesterday, King hit just the most disgusting snipe shots. The double back-to-back to the dome to secure Surge as well. What can they do here?
I mean, that's just skill. Seriously, there's no like coach, there's no VOD revealing that'll allow you to hit those shots. So, you know, obviously the skill is on this duo. It's just all about clutching up, right? Finding the cohesion. And I think today they're actually switching up their drop slots. So I'll be excited to see if it ends up working out for them in that regard.
Yeah, they're sort of switching up the way that they drop all the way down there at the Relentless Retreat. We saw them sort of contesting a team there yesterday. It was CalGamer and Sevenman. They're both still going there, but they're doing it in a different sort of way. I'm interested to see how that Osborne goes. I think for both teams, it didn't really work out. They were both sort of stuck in no man's land. What's going on? Are we going to try and fight? Are we going to try and disengage? I didn't even know what was going on there, so maybe they're going to try and be a little bit more structured today. They're going to either fight or they're going to disengage. I think it's going to be the latter because the stakes are that much higher.
You saw him on screen there for a moment. Kanata, Agers.
Oh.
Let's bring it back, okay? Kanata, Agers, going up against Thomas HG yesterday, it felt pretty one-sided, right? They had a couple games off spawn. Are they contested today?
Nope. Nope. And honestly,
they qual.
Yeah, well, that's what I would say. That's what I predict, right? But Kanata, you know, he hit the socials. He was like, yeah, we only made it off spawn 2 games. And both of those games, headshots.
Yeah.
Headshot snipes actually were the ones that actually ended up closing out their games for them in both of those scenarios. So maybe there's something they have to switch up a little bit there, maybe a little bit of an adjustment. Maybe they're not used to dealing with those snipers, but I'm sure they can do it.
I mean, the biggest problem for this team throughout this whole year was Storm Surge coming out of that racetrack spot. And they were uncontested in Major Number 3 Grand Finals. They fixed their Storm Surge problems, and Vivid, would you like to remind me what happened in Major 3 Grand Finals on NA?
Oh, they won.
Oh, they won, that's right. So hopefully today, if they can find that same mentality, that same way of playing, they'll do all right.
Well, I'm getting word. It is that time. We are about to kick off the lower bracket of Global Championship Day number 2. So casters, take us in.
Now is the moment you have all been waiting for. Game 1 of the lower bracket is ready to get underway. And Taco, if I had a seat here, I would be on the edge of my seat ready to call this action.
You can feel the nerves that have just been kicking the entire time. Everyone here is just wide awake. And the battle bus is as well, because we're already heading into game number 1.
This is it. This is the start of a journey for some, the continued journey for others. We've already seen some drop spots being switched up. Other players are sticking straight to the plan, but we're going ahead and looking at some of these contested battles right out of the game. Reason and Janice going up against Curb and Whiskey a little bit, but it looks like they're actually going to split off. They don't want to go ahead and hold on to one spot, and as soon as they realize it's safe, they go back to the game plan.
Up at the far north side, Giannis immediately heading for this Crude Harbor drop. It seems as though Giannis and Reason, maybe with the intentions of not trying to eat early surge damage, but as we can tell, the 50-50s, they have begun. Teams that got the better drops already letting their opponents know. Chubbs with an early 2-piece eliminations to start the game.
Yeah, this is his continued journey from yesterday. He fell below that top 25 threshold, looking to make up for it here today. Pamstu and Fatch, on the other hand, they thought they were going to have a huge contested battle. We saw it yesterday, but it doesn't look like Stains and Data are going to go ahead and contest them, or at least not right out of the gates.
Stain and Data is maybe taking a moment to reconsider things given how the circumstances went up against Setting and Cammy yesterday, but here at Kenjutsu Crossing, Adapter, KS, trying to be careful. They know that they've got pressure looming elsewhere inside of this POI. It's going to be Suns and Anon, who've actually seemingly switched up. Initially, were appearing as though Suns and Anon were going to head towards Naughty Nets, but maybe because of Badil and Savage's presence, thought otherwise.
Yeah, they had it uncontested yesterday. Did not work out for them. So I feel like they're just confident. They're ready to take whatever challenge is going to be before them. They want a little bit more loot, a clear path towards the middle of the zone, even though this time it's on the corner. And right now they're trying to go for the flag, and third-party shots already interrupting this off-spawn battle. That's going to force Adapter back, and he might have to go ahead and loot. He only has one combat SMG and not much to work with. But while they giving him time, that's FKS. They're trying to put the pressure on so that way his teammate can get a better loadout.
But at the same time, they're just letting the capture point go for free. And in fact, it seems as though there is some danger hanging on over by Naughty Nets. Saw a nice collection elimination there from Steno onto Mr. Savage. That could definitely play some spoiler effects for game one.
But if Fadil finds himself alive somehow, some way, you heard all the nice things Mr. Savage said about him, but make some noise. Clix and Epic will contested over towards Mega City, but I feel like that's no different. All season long, they've been contested about 2 or 3 other teams, but there's so much space to work with. There's so much loot to share. As long as they don't get caught off guard, it's business as usual.
But at the same time, there is so much traffic inside of Mega City, and as far as the vault is concerned, there's definitely something worth fighting over. You have to expect that regardless of where that high card spawn is at, people are going to be looking to make sure to take out whoever actually secures that vault key card.
Oh, wow. Actually, they weren't necessarily contested. They were taken out on their drop. You saw Vadil go ahead and get that reboot card, trying to give his teammate a second chance at life. Oak is here, ready to put some respect on his name, already getting 1 elimination. He's looking for another, but first he has a stop to make. Let's clean up this loot. Let's try to get as jam-packed as possible. You see the fallen teammate, Deguro, is going to be right above him. He knows no matter what, as he continues his journey, he's going to have to try to get that reboot card because doing this alone is not something anybody wants to face.
But at the same time, that siphon there for Okis definitely gave him a nice little bit to work with in comparison to Dieta, who doesn't have shields. If Okis wants to pressure this, he's definitely more than capable of doing so, but it seems as though his mentality right now is just to stay on the move. Being in this sort of solo situation, deep in the jungle biome here at Rumble Ruins, especially in this lower elevation territory, he might be able to sneak up on some other teams.
Yeah, I like the way you mentioned Surge as one of the first things, because yesterday, if it's shown us anything, Surge is not the easiest thing to come by in a lobby like this. And uncontested this time around, Canal and Agers getting a chance to fight off spawn, and immediately they go to what they know works from the past, trying to get Surge underneath their own belt, so that way they don't have to worry about it too much later in the game. But Vico and Pink, another team that has experience from day one, contested by Acorn and Cold. This time around, they're ready to take their fights to their opponent, and on the other side of things, it is going to be Bully and Shadow.
But look at this hype battle as well between Pink and Bully, both of them trying to provide cover fire for their fraggers down below. As far as Vico and Shadow are concerned, a little bit of a pause here, not directly trying to challenge. Seems as though Vico is trying to look for a regroup circumstance, but again, you have to keep some form of a barrier between yourself and another team. Bully just trying to do what he can as far as making sure that he's able to suppress Pink in the process, but they're not trying to give up any sort of resources for free here.
Yeah, and you can kind of already see in the mini-map just a little bit, you've seen it here, Bully and Shadow, they had no intention on trying to take that engage. They split up to try to get even more Surge early on in the game before the zone does get too small. Snazy and Podesai probably have the fan favorites on their side in the stadium. I hear them loud and proud already, and they're trying to go ahead and use that energy to fuel them here today. A little bit of a misstep on day one, but they're picking themselves up, dusting themselves off, and ready to put on a show.
Just because you stumble doesn't mean you fall, and it's got to be such an invigorating feeling knowing that you have so many fans in the venue just cheering for you every step of the way. It's not even like these guys are getting a piece of the action right yet. They're just moving, and you've got the French fans cheering for them. It's just awesome to see that kind of display.
One of the best controller players in the lobby. Polarized, teamed up with Scented over on the other side. They're taking a split that in day one belonged to another team. It's probably part of their strategy. Use this to try to qualify. We'll figure it out later, because that's the biggest things. At this stage in the game, there's no reason to save all your secrets for that championship Sunday, because you have to be able to make it there. Miniminer said it himself to open up the show, because what good are those strategies? What good are those tricks underneath your sleeves if you're not able to use them in the biggest moments possible?
Trouble now. Not for Podesai just yet, kind of lurking around this bush. He knows that he's got a couple contenders down beneath him, and as for Shalom and MK Papa, They want to take their time. I mean, kind of tough to try and fight that uphill battle, quite literally. So instead, just continue to wait things out, wait for a better opportunity to look for a rotation out. It can be difficult as well when you're playing right here on the edge side of where these zone pulls are happening because, again, for PotaSci, it seems as though the intent is just to prioritize positioning.
One team that changed their positioning overall to another, King, Phaser. You can already see they're over towards Shattered Slab. Zone is pulling all the way towards the eastern side of the map. They have a long journey to go, and you can even see it at the edge of Mega City here on Pink and Vico. So they have even more rotations to go later on in the game. But for now, it's Batman, Booga, and Rapid who beat him to the punch. The top of the hill, just west of Mega City. And they immediately got out of Mega City because that's one of the things we talked about to start the show is how contested it actually is. They could easily take a building on top, but they're taking a little bit of the safer route or what they thought would be because right now Pink and Vico are slowly but surely looking like they're going to try and sneak up and see if they have any opportunity to take over. But if you can see in the mini-map, they're going to choose to go the other way. It's not something they want to battle this early on in the game.
You can already see some shots, though, coming from a little bit of a distance here. Rapid just trying to be wary of the surroundings, and it makes perfect sense why you'd want to ditch from Mega City ASAP. When there's 4 separate teams landing there, again, it's just so much traffic to actually deal with. So why risk it when every single game can be so important? I think for Rapid and Batman Booga, not necessarily getting max resources, max materials, it's not as bad as it might initially look because they can always find the refreshes after the fact because again, Storm Surge strategies were definitely an issue for a lot of teams in day 1. And this is day 2. It's not like the competition's gotten any less.
Yeah, and you're seeing a lot of these teams taking that prime real estate to where they know players are going to rotate into. Video. We've seen him go for the reboot card onto Mr. Savage. Uncontested Northern Nets. That's a no-brainer that he's going to get him back into the game, back up as a duo. But as you can see in the minimap, they are split up. They called out this strategy to start the game. They're trying to cover more ground. They're trying to take more space away. This also allows them to get better lines of sight around the map for their Storm Surge. They already know what has happened in the past when Storm Surge is lacking. It forces you to make plays. It's almost like you don't have control over the game, and they are trying to do their best to keep control of their own destiny.
It's definitely something that has haunted Mr. Savage and Vidil all chapter long as far as Major 3 was concerned, even leading into that last chance Major, where we saw them switching up their drop spot even over to Drift Ridge just because of the fact that Mr. Savage is mentioning he doesn't like to be contested. Sure, they got it uncon then, but it's still never easy whether you're uncon or contested as far as establishing a solid Storm Surge strategy.
Yep, Fanayan and Moneymaker. Moneymaker probably one of our youngest players competing here today, showing that anything is truly possible as long as you have a chance, and they've given themselves just that, an opportunity on the biggest stage in the world when it comes to Fortnite. And you can already see the augment that he's choosing out. First Assault, Scope Salvo, 2 of the biggest ones that are needed when it comes to Storm Surge. It's gonna allow them to keep their distance and keep hitting those shots.
Like seeing this from Kitos as well. We're talking about augments, but right now the prioritization's onto Snazy. And it's looking good. Trying to see if they can push forward in this box fight. Shots being taken by PotaSci as well, just to even trade out so far. No real damage inflicted by either side just yet. But Yuma and Jamon, they can definitely feel the pressure, and PotaSci definitely aware of the fact that they've got more company coming.
We're already taking advantage of their positioning high up on the side of that mountain, trying to third party take some shots onto both Pink and Vico, who took down Okus, adding more to their own Storm Surge. Weapon cache are going to be there, and you can see Yuma and Jamon probably share that same weapons cache, so they're going to be forced to wait till Snazy and PotaSci leave off of this spot to try to pick up the scraps, figure out whatever is left along. But a team that, you know, taking a lot of time towards Slappy Shores. My only question for them is how is their surge? Because a lot of the teams are on the western side of the zone for now. They haven't begun to rotate over towards Slappy Shores. Not a lot of teams landing here right out of the gates. So for them, that's probably what's on their mind right now. We've looted up, we've gotten everything we need. Now we just need Storm Surge.
And hey, we're talking about Storm Surge so often. For Pink and Vico, this is going to be a massive contributing factor, getting that elimination onto Okus, just taking full advantage of that 2v1 situation. And that's something that's not necessarily going to be easiest to come by at this stage of the game. And for Rapid and Mamambuga, again, we revisit, we talk about the fact they left Mega City so early, and they just haven't managed yet to find that pressure situation to actually secure eliminations for the refreshes that they would like. And they don't necessarily have time to just farm resources either, because there's other teams moving in at this point. There's other teams already establishing good positioning off of earlier rotation. So if you try to expend your time farming resources, you're just going to keep getting lit up.
Yeah, and honestly, looking at 7-man's inventory now, you can already see they won the ball over towards Relentless Retreat, but it's a little unorthodox. Typically, you would grab something to pack a punch, whether it's a Sharp Tooth, an Infiltrator, or even a Maven, but he's going to go without it for now, hoping that that Mythic Stinger does more than enough damage in a moment's notice to be able to survive. It all depends on how you control that recoil, honestly, because I remember that thing go brr.
It's so obvious that the intention, though, is that up-close and personal battle. The question is, will they actually manage to force themselves into that type of situation? And Rift Island can definitely be a location where we'd expect those battles to come, but even all throughout day one, we hardly saw any sort of contestation over this Rift Island. Sending on the way up, though, definitely having some issues as far as maintaining his shields are concerned. Those are going to be completely depleted. Granted, they have ample shield potions to make up for it, but it's going to be Hen, it's going to be Bask actually looking to contest. They don't want to let this Rift Island objective points go for free.
If only they saw the damage that was put on both of these players before they even touched down on the island. Surely they would try to take advantage of it. And you can see one man's trash, another man's treasure. Miro and Cooper sneaking up on the side, trying to take away the position. The French team of Snazy and Podesai also willing to contest this Rift Island. And that's one of the things I was thinking. It was very, very passive yesterday. Even solos were able to take it. But as the VOD review goes on, as time passes, players are going to realize there's nobody up there. But when everybody thinks the same, now we have 4 teams on top of Rift Island ready to battle it out. One of them, Hen and Vask, 141 above the damage threshold. They're going to be the ones to contain it, plus 15 points for them, and that's going to be huge because we already see teams qualify with those points of the objectives.
Every little bit counts, but we've gotten a good idea of what's been happening directly in games so far. However, got a mid-game analyst to give us a little bit more.
Thank you so much, Taco. I just want to catch everyone up on our hometown heroes of Steno and Lush, who were able to get an elimination on Mr. Savage before he even hit the ground. Then we saw Steno be able to find a key, which he used to unlock a mythic shotgun. Quickly, they regrouped, built up a surge tower, and as you can see, they have vision on 2 duos of Jamin and Kanata, setting themselves up for an excellent mid and late game. But let's see how they do.
Only time will tell to see how it pays off. They definitely got themselves a good spot in the zone thanks to those plays.
And that's the thing, too, about those teams that are landing more towards the south side. It is so easy for other teams with slightly earlier drops to just pick you off with the elevation difference. It's one primary issue definitely known about that Naughty Nets area, but you can always expect to bounce back. I mean, we already saw the deal with the successful reboot ban onto Savage, so easy to say that anything can happen in these circumstances.
You can see it started at 181 above the damage threshold. Pamstu and Fatch slowly falling back down, climbing back up, trading shots back and forth. They have their eyes set towards Rift Island. They see a giant monument being built on top as Polaroids actually took down Snazy up above. And this is going to be a huge opportunity for them as they're just looking around. Nobody's directly pushing up onto them, even though they are split. They're just looking for these fights that are already underway and just trying to take advantage of it the best that they can. And just looking at the island right now, I didn't see Scented either.
Miro and Cooper are looking awfully vicious, though, in that position. You can just tell that they are waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike, and it's got to be only a matter of time. They can tell that there is so much chaos already unfolding on top of this Rift Island. Teams are just constantly under pressure, both outside and right here directly at the Rift Island. But for Vask and for Hen, again, you have to remember, they're the ones who actually secured the capture point here. So they've got some decent loot to go with it. And Miro and Cooper, if there was ever a time to try and take down another team and, you know, get plenty of refills as far as your materials are concerned and your weapons, that is definitely the opportunity.
Yeah, elimination feed is lighting up. A lot of players being forced to interact with each other thanks to that storm surge. Seeing Vortex go down. Even Duke's trying to rise to the occasion here today after his performance yesterday. trying to qualify for the FNCS Global Championship Final tomorrow. Jamon goes down. Yuma's going to have to leave him behind, but he's only 72 above the Storm Surge threshold, but now he's becoming the focus of multiple teams in this lobby right now. It's not looking good. HP is going to be down low. Shields are going to be ripped off, and the shots continue. Finally, though, he does have a short moment to breathe, but that's only going to give him enough time to pop one Mimi. The Shalom and MK Pop are over on the other side. They probably know that he's a solo. They saw him crash land in with that rocket ram, and this is something that they're trying to take advantage of.
For Shalom and MK Papa, they've just been playing bouncer responsibility on this edge of zone, and granted it just moved in a little bit tighter, but for Yuma, now you can see him starting to get lit up by some of that Storm Surge. Accountability as far as your surge strategies are concerned, it can be very difficult to maintain it throughout because there is just so much action happening as some of the congestion builds along this edge of zone and teams needing to move even further in. Players like Yuma are bound to get caught out on those later rotations.
Yeah, you can see they're even willing to risk it. Shalom and MK Papa, they got the elimination, or at least they saw it towards the backside of zone, but they didn't have very many materials at all. So it was almost an all or nothing situation if they want to keep as best chance as possible for them to try to stay alive. I see a Vico. I don't see Pink. Got to imagine, yes, he is by himself as a solo, and he's suffering to surge right now. 13 below the threshold. Now he's in zone. Everything crumbling down. Only a few seconds to try to land the shot that matters, and he's not going to be given that opportunity. Down goes Pink. Down goes Vico.
But a massive pickup there for Yuma. Still utilize that rocket ram to try and close the gap even further and make sure that he's maintaining a decent distance on that backside of the zone. Kanata, meanwhile, next to Agers, trying to be vigilant with his awareness. And again, so many teams just trying to keep tabs on where everybody else is in the lobby. And players like Bing, there are a decent amount of pressure here, but they will manage to prevail. Nicely timed shots, nicely placed aim as well with that sharp tooth to ensure that they can acquire that elimination.
Yeah, and since he got eliminated altogether, gotta imagine Moneymaker went down earlier on in this same game. We saw Polarize, the one that took down Snazy, leaving Podesai by himself. At least he's above the damage threshold for now, but quickly falling below. Now he knows he's gonna have to try to find and catch somebody off guard, because otherwise he's gonna have no choice but to try to get in the box, slowly but surely biding his time, trying to make sure that he makes the right play. And this is an opportunity for him to really rise to the occasion by himself. And with Storm Surge shutting off for now, that at least allows him to breathe, restabilize himself in that position. Edgy goes down outside of zone. It wasn't enough. So Duke and Edgy are also out of this game. Action is moving so fast, and we're not even into the placement points yet.
The zone pull, a little bit brutal for some of these teams as it just keeps getting closer and closer to that edge side. And again, for Agers and Kanata, as we get another opportunity to see from where we last left off with them, Kanata's got to be careful with this rocket ram on the landing. So many teams, and right on the side of this hill. It can be difficult. He's trying to work his way back up already, fully understanding the fact that he doesn't want to have to play from the low ground, but he'll be forced to take shelter, utilize some of this Memist. Unfortunately for him, only has those mini shield potions, won't actually get an opportunity to get full shields. And for Agers, this is even worse.
Yeah, he only has 23 HP, doesn't have time to sit back. Nice shot's gonna be fired. That is a huge siphon and refresh for Agers, because now he's boosted up in the mats. He has a little bit more HP to work with. The flopper, the med kit he can use in-game, and if him, Kanata, can find a way to reunite, he has the minis and another knock onto QNDX. Agers doing what he did in their championship run. The siphon's gonna be picked up, but he has to get to zone. This is a 5-tick. Time is running out, and another Menmith. Miracle upon miracle landing in the palm of Agers' hands.
He's trying to do what he can to make it across, but this hill phase is just so problematic. Still, the med miss plus the med kit, he just doesn't have the mobility that he'd be hoping for. With so many teams having already pushed in, he might just barely make it in the nick of time. He's got to find another sight opportunity, but even just making it this far is more than enough.
I feel like I heard him on stage. Don't worry, Kanata, I'm coming. Don't worry. Med kit being used, minis being dished out, and they are back into the game. The resurgence from day one as we get a replay from Clix and Epicwell. One of the biggest teams everybody came to see. They get aggressive passed on due to Storm Surge, and they shine bright. Storm Surge is not a problem from them as they pick up 2 eliminations.
Check out where Bryce and Chubbs are at, a little bit more isolated than some of these other teams that are trapped inside of all this congestion. Mr. Savage and Baddiel, though, from rags to riches at the beginning of this game, they have done a decent, if not a phenomenal job at putting themselves into a comeback situation.
Some of these teams, we were asking, do you got what it takes to get your ticket onto the battle bus? What about the roller coaster this team's going through from down the mountain, across the rivers, over towards Naughty Nets? I think best case scenario, honestly, Taco, is it going south, continuing on towards that island. If it goes back on over to the west, this is going to be a nightmare for anybody that doesn't have mats, as Clix is using the last little bit that he does have left, but he finds another elimination on the ping.
These perfectly timed rotations from Clix, managing to find these players who are looking to just find that final push inward. But again, this is the beauty of being able to play from that backside of the zone. Still, Clix, Epic trying to be careful, and we are getting a little glimpse here of a team that's momentarily on high. Whether or not Fishy and DMK are going to be able to hold this is a different question entirely, but for the time being, they look well situated to carry themselves into the top 10 at least.
Even though they have high ground now, they might have to wait for some of those teams below them to try to build that allow them to save some resources, save some mats as they make their way across the roster once more. Podesai, 131 below the damage threshold. Only a big pop to his name. So right now he's peeking through the cone. He's trying to just get as much information as possible. Where can I get this damage? But time is running out. He continues to fall well below that threshold as Savage picks up another elim. Baddiel goes down, but it's actually Epic Well who falls to Mr. Savage, trying to keep himself alive. Storm Surge isn't a worry, but it's the HP, it's the zone that's pulling away.
So unfortunate though, Savage gonna be unable to do anything in terms of helping out the deal. Simply has to watch, wait, continue their run. That flopper though, along with the crash pads, does a great job placing him into the zone. Mr. Savage moving through all the traffic, eating shots as well, but doesn't care in the slightest. He's just continuing to push forward. He's making his own path through.
It's not going to be the most healthy anybody in the lobby can be, but he's definitely going to give himself enough wiggle room to work with. His Clix now going to be a solo, probably one of the more prolific solo players in the game. He finds a knock on the hand, but unable to finish it up. He gets taken out by Podesai.
Podesai as well. The fact that he's managed to stay this far into the game as a solo, you just know that he is going absolutely insane right now, trying to keep the run alive. Rocket Rams as well, destroying so many builds in the process. These players continue to rotate through, but that materials refresh is going so far, and it's actually Bryce and Chubbs now at the top of the lobby, but builds running incredibly low.
Yeah, multiple top 10 performances in the major this year. I think Bryce and Chubbs are one of the teams that are falling under the radar. They're ready to make a statement, just like Komet, but he runs out of time, he runs out of space, he goes down as his Medmiss runs dry.
Kanata, another mini, going to be popped. The patience. It's so hard to be patient through all this chaos as well. It's so easy to get distracted and think, okay, this is the perfect time to strike. A drop down to the low ground here for Kanata. Recognize the fact that he's got some players directly above him. Still has a couple of mini shield pushes he can utilize. Source, on the other hand, won't make it through. Cooper going absolutely nuclear with the back-to-backs here. Cooper just won't let it go. He's actually got it.
Attention of Bryce and Chubbs. I thought it as well. I thought Cooper just stole away the game, but it's Bryce and Chubbs. I called them one of the most underrated teams falling under the radar this weekend. They played phenomenally to make it to this point, and they make a statement here in game one of the lower bracket. Frankie, how are they feeling?
How are you feeling? I mean, my friends up in the casting booth would like to know, so I will ask you first, Bryce.
I'm feeling good.